Hi guys, it's Kamil here, and I'm coming to you with my 10th Man Booker International Prize review. And today we will talk about Little Eyes by Samanta Schweblin. It might not be pretty, but let's start from the beginning. Samanta Schweblin is an Argentinian writer, quite well known in English-speaking worlds, mainly because of two translated works of her that were very well received. And I'm talking about her breakthrough, Fever Dreams, which was shortlisted for International Booker Prize in 2017, and her short story collection, Mouthful of Birds. Although written earlier, originally published in 2008, it was translated in 2019 and was also longlisted for International Booker Prize. Little Eyes, her newest novel, published in 2020, is Schweblin's third work longlisted for International Booker Prize. And it was one of the most anticipated titles to be released in 2020. I was one of those people that were looking very much forward to Schweblin's new work, as even though still very young, this Argentinian writer living in Berlin already established herself as an author of gripping, disturbing, and socially quite daring works. As far as the plot is considered, Samanta Schweblin came up with an interesting idea. Margaret Atwood-esque speculative fiction type of an idea, which is much closer to our reality than anything Atwood described in her brilliant Mad Adam trilogy. Love those. I'm saying it's much closer to our reality as Schweblin's main plot driver in this novel, a toy called Kentucky, could be already part of our lives as the technology is already here. Kentucky is a teddy, a toy, a soft toy with a camera in an eye that is shared between a keeper, being a person owning a device, and a dweller, a person with the power to remotely move the device around. How does that work? A person wanting to be a keeper buys a sweet teddy bear. They come as pandas, dragons, crows, bunnies, moles, while on the other side a random person buys a connection to the camera and steering functionalities of that device, and that person becomes a dweller. The dweller and the keeper, two strangers, cannot communicate in a direct way because the device doesn't speak but only produces some unrecognizable noises imitating animal sounds. Sounds pretty promising, right? Even with that simple description, the imagination of readers starts to run. One can already see potential plots, right? Like an older person soothing his loneliness by becoming a dweller of a device to gain sort of a virtual family. A blackmail plot comes quickly to mind too, as the camera in that device might easily catch a bit too much, right? Then, on the much darker side, pedophiles could use it to observe young kids in home settings, right? The toy could also be used to tell the story of a kid getting lost in virtual reality while escaping the world of his own. This is what every reader could come up with, having 10 minutes to think about what a book with that type of a device can talk about. And this is pretty much exactly what Schweblin does in this novel. She takes all of it, spreads it around the world where she sets her various storylines, and that's basically it. And this is my main problem with this book. My main problem. The blurb on the cover describes this as widely imaginative, while I believe it is everything but. As what the author does with those toys and how she used them to build various subplots is exactly what you would expect her to do. It's extremely predictable. The problem, I guess, lays in the fact that what Kentucky represents or warns us against is pretty much everything we can observe already, living in our reality where our lives are exposed for public viewing already. We already live in an era with a big portion of our lives being exposed. However, because we already learned what danger this exposition carries, we are not willing to let the control of what we show to be taken away from us. Most of us want to keep a certain level of privacy, right? And because we are not new to that, unfortunately for Schweblin, it's easy for any of us to come up with the most obvious risks as what could happen if we gave that control away, right? And sadly, little eyes hardly go above what's obvious. From the perspective of social commentary, it also doesn't say anything new. We already live in the world where virtual reality or the life of others are, for many people, their favorite type of entertainment. And we have it delivered daily by reality TV, YouTube vlogs, and camera-based porn sites. On the other end, we have people willing to expose themselves, either for money or because they get some kind of kick from it, right? Even though I knew it would be extremely hard for Schweblin to say anything new in the area that was analyzed back and forth, starting from articles and books coming from academia and ending with conversations all of us had during our Sunday dinners with our favorite aunties. However, I was still hoping for some new psychosociological angle, or at least, if not new, I was hoping for some intelligent commentary. Schweblin, though, doesn't go there. She describes her various characters from both perspectives, keepers and dwellers, with a rather basic psychological approach and quite predictable storylines, leaving the interpretation to the reader, which is fine, and that approach could have maybe worked if she pushed the topic a bit farther, quite much farther, or she went deeper with it. Because what Little Eyes offer is the same discussion we already had in every possible sphere. I mean, how many discussions we had about how virtual world is taking over the space that belongs to the real world. More so now, in this old lockdown we are living in, or how many discussions we had about how we are turning into the society of the spectacle, watching others living their lives. I mean, about the society of the spectacle. Guy Debord talked about it in the 60s, and in much more progressive, mind-blowing way. Not mentioning that even though he was talking about the real world and the one before the internet was around, it was bloody terrifying, much more creepy than this book. How many discussions we had about the threats of the internet. I mean, it does feel like trying to make a salad out of an old lettuce. And to make it clear, I'm not disappointed because the topic is old. I'm disappointed because there's hardly anything new done with it. Not to be so negative. Little Eyes reads well. Schweblin is a good writer. She has this uncanny ability to create, rather disturbing scenes, sometimes on the verge of grotesque, but never really crossing that line. Having said that, I need to add that the creepiness, the darkness, still looks like a skinny teenage boy flexing muscles when you compare it with what reality already served us with the use of the internet. Coming back to the language though, I know I am terrible, I cannot stop. Language. Schweblin is known for her language, which carries a bit darker tone. It's visible here as well. There are moments where some words decision might for some of us sound a bit too obvious. Like here in the fragment I'm going to read, where two teenage girls, school bullies, talk about a girl from their school, the one they recorded with a hidden camera when she was using a bathroom. Then the third girl that is trying to join the squad thinks, This would be her show, she thought. This was how she would emerge unscathed from the situation. Unscathed. But generally, the language serves its purpose, and its purpose is building progressively darker, progressively more sinister atmosphere, like here, quite early in the novel. Alina felt some little taps on her feet. The Kentucky was next to her, its head angled violently upwards so it could look at her. It's not a bad book, it's just very predictable. And because of that, unfortunately, somewhere already halfway through, I was reading it quite disappointed, mostly focusing on thinking what could have been done differently to make this novel be more successful, at least to me. And I believe it would work much better if Schweblin focused on one storyline and built stronger psychological and social commentary around that one storyline, more like she did in her fever dreams. Instead of addressing all dark yet obvious ways we messed up our current society with the depth of commentary of a Facebook post. I know I'm being quite mean and I don't like being that, even though in the era of internet that is what sells. The days when I was laughing from Murakami or Coelho are long gone, as I believe it's much harder to criticize without smearing my comments with venom. Here, I am less gentlemanly only because I'm quite irritated, as I believe Schweblin is a very talented writer, potentially literary classic in making, while this book is a flop. Okay guys, let me know if you read it, what did you think of it, and I'll talk to you soon. Next time, I'll be back with The Other Name by Jon Fosse. Bye bye, guys.